All right, today we're going to be talking about operations with negative and positive rational numbers. And we're going to be using some bears in order to figure out how to add negative and positive integers. So you're going to follow along as we explore adding these integers. And integers are negative and positive whole numbers. Make sure you fill yours in. So as we combine negative numbers with positive numbers, we need to keep in mind that the yellow bears will represent the positive numbers, while the red bears are going to represent the negative numbers. So, as we get into the first one, we're going to be representing negatives with these little red bears and the positive with these yellow bears. So, we have 6 positives and 6 negatives in this first problem. So, go ahead and lay yours out as well. So, 6 negative, 6 positive. Now, when we look at these, the thing with negatives and positives is that they're opposite. They're on opposite sides of the zero. So, when we are combining a negative with a positive, considering that they're opposites, they do basically cancel each other out. They become a zero. So, for every negative and positive together, we can cancel the other one out. So, all of these are going to become 0. If there's anything left over, that's going to be the answer. So as I'm adding them, they become 0. So now when we draw this out to represent it, we are going to do essentially the same thing. So we have 6 negatives, so you can draw them with dots, with squares, whatever you want. But we have to represent 6 negatives. So take your red pencil and draw 6 negatives, and we want 6 positives with yellow. And now, every time you see the opposites, you're going to cancel those out. So, with this one, the answer is 0 because we have 6 opposites, which are going to create nothing. 0. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next one, which has some negatives and positives that are not going to cancel each other out completely. So we have 8 positives. Whoops. Sliding all over. So 8 positive bears and 4 negative ones. So as we look at these, we group our negatives and positives. So that becomes 0, that becomes 0, that becomes 0, that becomes 0. So what's left over are our 4 positives, so that's going to be the answer as we add them. So answer is positive 4. And as we draw it out with our colored pencils, make sure that you're drawing yours along with me. So there's my 8 positives. And 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives. So now, when I look at those, again, cancel out my opposites. They become 0. So the remainder, what's left over, is my solution. Now, let's go ahead and flip it over to the back. We have 5 positives, or sorry, 5 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we have 9 positives. One more. So, again, we're looking for sets of opposites. So that set is 0, that set's 0, that set's 0, that set's 0, that set is 0. So those are going to make our zeros. And what's left over are 4 positives. So again, we're looking at drawing it out. So we have 5 negatives, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 negatives, 9 positives, and then we can look at canceling out all of our opposites and look for our solution, which will be 4 positives in this case. All right, for this next one, we have 4 positives, 7 negatives, whoops, so when I line all of these up, I want you to think about what your answer is in your head right now. Just try to make a prediction, and let's see if you're right. So these are going to equal 0. These are going to equal 0. These are going to equal 0. And these are going to equal 0. Now we're left with 3 red bears, and red represents negative. So our answer in this case is going to be a -3. So we can look at it one more time. We had our 7 negatives. And our 4 positive. Cancel out the opposites. Look at what you're left with. All right, on this last one, I'm going to eliminate the bears. Well, actually, no, I'm not, because we haven't seen a problem like this yet. So we have -2 plus -4. Now, we don't have any opposites in this case, so we're simply adding them all together. So just like when you learned in kindergarten how to add 5 plus 3, and you knew that they were 8, the same thing goes with negatives. If I add negatives together, it just becomes more negative, kind of like adding debt to debt. And your parents probably could explain that to you. When you have money that you owe and you have more money that you owe, then you're further and further in debt, which means you owe lots of money. The same concept. So I have -2 and I add -4 more to it. I now have how many negatives altogether? If you count them up, there are 6 negatives. So that's going to be my solution. So when I don't have opposite colors, I just simply add them together. There's no canceling. All right, it's your turn to go ahead and try this. You have bears. I want you to manipulate them and solve for the answer. Have a great day. Have fun.